Today we're going to be drawing a heart with a dagger tattoo. This is a classic tattoo design seen all through American traditional style tattoo. My name is Dagger, this is Dagger Designs. Welcome back to a brand new drawing video. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Let's get straight into it by going to the overhead. Alright guys, welcome back to the table. So in today's video, like I said, we're drawing a heart with a dagger penetrating through it. Now I've got a couple of sheets of paper here. You will need a few different sheets of paper. And we're going to start off with the heart portion by folding our page in half. Now you'll notice this is different from a lot of my other videos, but this is, in my opinion, a really good way of getting symmetrical designs, and I have done this before on my channel. So I'm going to start with the heart. You're always going to start off the center line with a symmetrical design, and I want to have a circular shape towards the top here, sort of like this, and I'm just doing that roughly to begin with so that I can measure it out to the size I'd like to have. And then I'm going to follow that top line around and cut it down towards the center like that. Alright, that's going to give us basically half a love heart shape. You can erase your little guidelines on the inside if that sort of helps. Now from here I'm going to double up on my lines. So just doubling up the thickness of my lines. You want to keep the thickness parallel. You want to keep it consistent and parallel to the outer line there as best as you can. So following that all the way around. And as we get to the center, I kind of want to add a little bit of a decorative pattern to the center there. So the way that we're going to do that as we come around is to flare out, back in, and then to the center, and as I sort of trace that through to the other side, it's going to double itself up and look really nice. Now from here I'm just going to add dots all the way around the outside. This is almost like a frame that sort of wraps the outside of our heart. Really common with these traditional style designs to see this sort of thing done. Just helps break up the design a little bit and makes it look a little bit nicer. Now something to note here is these dots are spaced roughly a centimeter apart, but you can really do whatever you'd like with that outside border. I just like to keep it nice and simple. Now from here you're going to need to use your light pad, so I'm going to turn down my main light here and switch on my light pad. You can see our design here. It's quite difficult to see in this kind of lighting, but I'm going to flip the page essentially and trace my design through. Now obviously my fingers and my hands here look really dark. Hopefully that doesn't stop you guys from seeing what's going on here. But I'm essentially tracing through my design using my light pad. And we're going to use this same technique twice in this video. So if you don't have a light pad yet, I do recommend that you get one. It's an invaluable tool for drawing and designing tattoo flash and other forms of illustration as well. If you're not set on getting a light pad, or maybe you don't have the money for one, you could of course put your paper up to a glass window with some sunshine through it and do it that way. Or another way to do it is to use tracing paper, which is definitely another option, and it's something that I have done before as well. Now once you've traced it through, you can open your page up, and that's going to give you pretty much a perfect love heart shape. It's going to have the border all the way around it. As you can see, it has that nice little pattern on the inside there. You might need to do a little bit of work to line up your center properly, but for the most part, should pretty much be perfect. So that's how we're going to do a nice solid heart design that is perfectly symmetrical. And the reason I like to show this step is because you can use this for so many other designs. This technique is sort of transferable to many other elements of designing tattoo designs. So the next step for this is figuring out how big our dagger needs to be. So I kind of want the handle of the dagger to come up one side and penetrate through the heart, maybe from this angle here. So sort of needs to be like maybe that sort of length there. So you can just take your ruler if you'd like, measure that out. So it's about 5-6 inches there. So then we can just take our page here, fold it in half, and this is going to help us create our dagger. And then I will just measure out 6 inches on our page here. So from the top, and maybe 6.5 just to be safe, like that. So that's going to be the full length of our dagger there. All right, once you've measured out those elements, time to decide how big you'd like each element to be. So our handle will probably occupy that space there, and that will be our blade. This doesn't have to be an exact measurement, and in fact it won't, but you can of course do the math and figure that out yourself. To add in the actual handle shape, in this case, I'm going to start by adding in a few curves. So this folded edge is going to be the center of our design, so we're sort of always working off the center. I'm going to add in a curve that comes around like this and loops back around itself, and then goes past that line that we drew and onto the center of our page. And I might just bulk that out a little bit more. So that's going to give you the guard shape for our dagger there. Now I'm going to add in a little semicircle like this, or a quarter of a circle. That will link up to the center once again. And then from there, I'm going to go ahead and add in this little rounded portion for my handle. Now, if you're sort of careful with what you're doing, you can tell how that's going to look on the other side. And I think that's going to look a little bit too bulbous at the end there, so I kind of want to slim that out a little bit and bring it back in a little bit more, kind of like that. There's going to be a few details on there as well. No point waiting, we can drop them in here. I'll add a little curve, and I might add a few of these little bumps across it like that with some little dots. These are just decorative little patterns, and you can definitely play around with these. You know, look at some reference images and you'll find so many different styles. From here, adding a little bit to the base of the handle, I'll add a few more curved lines in like that, and then I'll add a little loop like this, and almost like a little love heart shape, like a little upside down love heart shape, and that's all going to come together once we do the tracing portion of this. So now for the blade section, I'm going to have a line coming from the center of the page on our bottom mark there. And you want to use a ruler for this to get it nice and straight. And I'll bring that up pretty close to the blade, but not the handle, sorry, but not quite touching. Like that. And then you can angle it up towards the handle and link it in like that. And last thing we're going to do is do another line from that point that we just drew down to the center. Now we're going to go ahead and trace this through on our light pad. Okay, so now I've traced my dagger through. Once I unfold it, that gives us a nearly perfect symmetrical dagger actually. There's a couple of lines there which aren't lined up properly, but you can go ahead and tidy those up. You can always fix those when you're doing your line work as well. And the last thing I need to do is add this center line to it. So I kind of like to have a little bit of a V at the tip here, and then exactly where the page was folded, you just do a line straight up the center like that, and that's going to give you a really nice, perfectly symmetrical little traditional style dagger. Now I need to quickly mention that members of my channel will be receiving this video as this week's tutorial. We are doing an anatomical style heart, still in a traditional style design and similar to the design from this week. However, instead of a love heart, we're doing a more anatomical style heart, still in more of a traditional style. But if this is more up your alley, please consider signing up to my channel as a member. It's only $5 a month and you get instant access to all of the advanced tutorials as well as the weekly advanced tutorials that are coming out. And I really do appreciate the support. It helps the channel and it helps me continue to teach you guys the way that I do. All right, let's get back to it. I'll now show you how to join these two together. So we're going to take our page that has the heart on it. And normally I would do this over the top of the light pad, but I really want you guys to see what I'm doing here. The dagger is going to go through on this angle like this. So what you need to do is basically find the place where you want the dagger to come out of, which will be this bottom sort of corner for me. And I'm going to add in an S curve like that. And then I'm going to double up on that S curve like that. So that's going to end up giving me sort of like a little slit in the base of the heart there. Okay, so just to give you guys a better look here, hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, but I'm going to layer the two elements of my design over the top of each other so that they're in the right area where I'd like them to be. That should be about right. And so now the dagger would come through the cut in the front of the heart there and protrude from the back section there. And it's at this point that I will throw in a couple of little blood droplets or splashes of blood. And you could sort of do as many or as few as you'd like and whatever direction you'd like. I think just 2 at the bottom there to keep this nice and simple. Now another quick tip is while you've got this on your light pad and it's lined up exactly how you would like it to be, go ahead and take a few pieces of tape and just tape the sheets together. This way nothing moves around, and when you go ahead to transfer this to your watercolor paper, the 2 separate sheets of paper are sort of combined as one. This is very similar to if you're doing a design on the iPad on Procreate. These are like layers. You're building up layers of design. That way when you do the final outline, you get rid of all those nasty bits in between that don't make the design look good. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer this to some watercolor paper, and I'll see you guys in a minute. Alright, I'm now at the point where I'm ready to start painting. I've transferred our design over to watercolor paper using that layering method that we discussed, and you can see it looks really nice and very traditional style here. Now in terms of colors, we're sticking to a very traditional color palette. Solid carbon black, pyrrole red, yellow orange azo, and phthalo green. So very basic colors. I've also got some raw sienna here, transparent raw sienna, that I'm going to be using as a background wash. And I've also got a glass of water and my brushes. These are Taklon synthetic brushes, number 5 and number 6. Now I'm going to start off by doing a little bit of a wash using my raw sienna here. This is something that I don't always do, and you certainly don't have to do it, but it can come to a nice sort of effect. So I'm going to go ahead and just add that to the background of our design, and you can sort of let that bleed to the outer edges of your design as well. That's fine. So just going in with that color and a little bit of water and applying that to your design here. Now once your wash has dried, we can go ahead and start painting the design here. So I'm going to start off with my black shading as always, and I'm going to start off by adding in my solid areas of black. So just coming in to the little cut that's in the heart here, where the dagger is emerging from. Solid black in there, keeping it nice and bold. And in the handle as well, I'm going to have solid black in this little section here. And I might bring up some of that solid black into this top section as well. Okay, now looking at our black shading, I'm going to come in from this top section of the tip of the dagger with a bit of black. And I'm sort of going to round that off a little bit. And then take my blending brush and feather that out. And then just blend that down like that. So we have a nice bit of black blending down from that area. I'll flip this guy around, and I'm going to go from the left side of the blade here with a bit of black, like that. Feather that out gently towards the center, and then a little bit of black off the center of the blade, and feathering that out towards the right hand side like that. That's typically how I'll shade any sort of dagger style blade like that. Now for the top section of the blade, there's not that much of it visible. I'll probably just come in from the base of it using a bit of black on both sides towards the center there, and just feathering that out and down. Now the largest area of black shading is going to be on the handle there, at least for the dagger. So I'm going to come in off one side using black, just solid off one side. And I'm going to start to curve it with the shape of the handle in sort of a C shape like this. Okay, bringing that around. Now I can take my blending brush, feather out that whole edge like that, and just blend that across the handle gently. Like that. Now from here I'm going to turn it around. I might add in a little bit of black coming off the other side in sort of a semicircle fashion, or just like a little curved fashion like this. A little bit of water and feathering that edge out again. Now in terms of our actual heart here, I'm going to flip this guy around, and I want to add black along this side here. This is going to sort of, it'll add shading to it, And it's also going to create the illusion of a little border. That little border that's around the heart actually has a little bit of depth to it, and this little bit of black shading is going to help solidify that. So adding a bit of black, feathering out that edge, and blending it across like that. I'm also going to add a little bit of black to the underside of this edge here, and that's for the same reason that we did it on that side. And then you can feather that out as well. And that's going to help with this sort of, it almost gives it a 3D appearance, a little bit off the tip of this little center detail, this little flowered center detail. And you can sort of see how if the light was casting from this side of our heart and this little border, you know, was about 2 millimeters raised from where the heart is, there'd be a shadow there and under there. So that would actually be almost recessed the red portion of the heart. That is all of the black shading for this one. So washing out my brush, and I'm going to go into my Pyrrole red for here. That is sort of the next main color for this one. First thing I'm going to do is come in and do the solid area of red in the little droplets, the little blood droplets at the base here, and also in the tip of the dagger, going straight up and into my black shading there, just like that. And that red, once it dries, will show the black shading through it. Also, the portion just above the heart here is going to be red. Again, working over the top of my gray shading, it will show through, and there'll be a nice variation through the red there. Creates like a gradient through the red. And that very last little detail on there, I'll probably do that red as well. I'm going to come in now and paint this main portion of the heart. Now you want to load your brush up really heavily for this. Go straight over the top of your black shading and come down onto your heart. This is going to be a big solid section of red. Sometimes these large areas, when they're done really solid, can look really nice as well. So don't be afraid to do these large areas of solid color sometimes. It can really add a nice big pop to your design. Now when I get down to that section, I am going to feather out that edge just before the cut area, and then I can keep working around it. There we go. And then I can take my blending brush, soften up those areas and feather them out around the little cut there. Okay, that's the red portion done. Washing out my brush. Again, the next main color is going to be our yellow orange azo. There's quite a few details we're going to do here. So the first one is just going to be a couple of these little bands that are on the handle. And using that sepia wash in the background is really handy for this. It sort of makes the yellow not stand out quite as much. Sometimes against a white sheet of paper, that yellow can be a little bit too vibrant, a little bit too harsh. Kind of want it to be, you know, blend in just a little bit more, soften it a little bit. So doing it in front of the sepia background, which is already slightly tan in color, is going to sort of help mute that just a little bit. And then also the ring or the frame of the heart here is going to be yellow. So just bringing yellow all the way around the sort of frame section of the heart. Washing out my brush again. And the last color is the phthalo green. A couple of small details that are going to be phthalo green in the handle here. This little semicircle on top of the guard, I'm going to do that green. That little bead at the end of the handle is going to be green as well. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could probably do that middle bit of the handle green as well, and that would look quite cool with the black shading. But I really like the way that it looks like that, so I'm going to leave it. And that, my friends, is how we draw a traditional style love heart and dagger tattoo. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope you give this one a go. It was a lot of fun to do, and it's a real classic sort of traditional design, so I hope you guys give this one a go and add it to your portfolio and to your repertoire. That having been said, I'll see you guys in the next video, and that's it. Alright, bye-bye. If you like the content that I make and you'd like to support the channel, make sure you smash that like button. And hey, while you're at it, check out one of these other great videos.